Hey, it's Thursday. It's your, mostly weekly program, all about the Adventure Game Engine and the games that the Adventure Game Engine powers. We've got a good one today. In addition to my, normal, I would say normal for this phase, this era of our Thursday existence, I've got my buddy, Ren the Bow, who's here. We're going to be
Hello.
We're going to be talking about the Slumberer's Burden and asking some good questions of our very dear friend, my Green Ronin colleague, master swordsman, and just all around charming fella, Malcolm Sheppard.
My swordplay could be better. Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. That was a reminder to me to practice tonight.
Since, you got to hone your skill.
Well, yes, I do, because the weather has been such that it's been hard to practice, because it up here in the Canadas, it has been too cold for any snow to melt for weeks and weeks and weeks. So we have just huge piles of the stuff all over.
You're just out there just chopping up snow.
Chopping up snow.
Well, I mean, you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and we've got a very interesting conversation ahead of us. But before we get into that, let's talk about. So, do you have updates to share or information, or here's the thing: every time you join us, there are a million questions.
Yes. So stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
Well, we are starting to do some more stuff for Freeport and Fantasy Age.
Ooh.
Just in addition, because Freeport is a setting that exists in Fantasy Age. And behind the scenes, we have been doing some work on defining what Freeport is in Fantasy Age and what the Freeport setting is in Fantasy Age. Because if you know Freeport, you know that it's designed with a lot of built-in flexibility so that you can just plop it into whatever game or setting you'd like, right? Yeah. So because Fantasy Age belongs to us, we have the advantage, as well as Freeport, we have the advantage of actually defining those things, at least in terms of Fantasy Age. So in terms of canonicity, this is going to be official Freeport for Fantasy Age, right?
I see.
Freeport in other games might be different, right? Because we don't want to take away that flexibility, but we do want to have some cool stuff. So there's a little PDF with some new ancestries that's coming. That is for that setting. There has been some movement on a new historical supplement for Fantasy Age set during the 100 Years' War. That was kind of in limbo for a while, but now is the time, and I've started grinding out more work on that. And of course, we have Sage, and Sage just got out of editing, except for one little bit that I finished today. And that is rather what I have sort of mentally called Big Sage, right? Although it isn't that big. It's no more complex in play than the version of the game that appears in engine number 3, which you should get because the little Sage in it, rules in it are great, and the settings in it are fantastic.
Okay, so wait a minute. So that would be, you were saying that the one that's in our
Engine Magazine number 3.
Magazine. Sorry, say that again.
Engine Magazine number 3.
Number 3 is a smaller, like a slice of Age, and then
because
Sage rather.
Because Big Sage has a whole bunch more options, right? So the idea is that you can create the version of Sage that you want to play, and it's at its base, it's very simple, but you can increase or decrease its complexity if you want. Nice. And we're going to do it all in the form of, like, literally, you should be able to make a campaign by filling out a form we will include in the book. And one of the things that I have done is I've excerpted part of that because I thought it was relevant to, because today is all about setting design, right?
Yes.
So half of the form is about setting design. And so what I did in Sage, in the new Sage core, is that I basically created an outline for the reader as just like they are freelancing, right? Except
Nice.
with, you know, I demand fewer words and there's more explanation of exactly what I would want. But by I mean your best interests, who
That's right.
is setting design.
I mean, it should also be you. Yeah, right,
Right.
right. I like that.
So I have, so I've taken that excerpt and I think we're going to
We are going to pop it
share
in
it
there real
around
quick.
at some point
Yeah,
today.
yeah, and it's very serendipitous because both, all three of the designers on the Slumberer's Burden,
Yeah.
we've got no, there's no loss of like creativity and direct, like just storylines and threads and all this good stuff. But when we had our show last week, it was all about designing the perfect fantasy city and the elements therein. And the more that we did it, the more I thought, we really do need to consult with the Sword Daddy. And so we're super glad that you were able to kind of come in and help us out with this. But I want to, there's a question here to get things out of the way. Tempo says, what kind of swords do they use in Swords of the Shadow Planet?
In Swords of the Shadow Planet, cool sabers, I would assume. Yes, for Swords of the Shadow Planet, we have a lot of stuff coming out. So it's all finished, but I'm not sure where, I'm not sure when it's going. Because, we have, so many upcoming books this year. Like it really is a big deal. And we have the Mutants and Masterminds Kickstarter going right now.
We do,
right?
we do, and it's going gangbusters. We'll pop into that one.
And the new edition of The Expanse, right? And so all of that stuff needs space and a budget and things like that to finish executing. So that means that we're kind of waiting around to find a space for Swords of the Shadow Planet.
Nice. Okay.
But you should visualize classic planetary romance type of swords, right? Which for me, right, is like basket hilted sabers and things like that. Hold on, I'll go get one.
Okay. I like that. Shadowcat is wondering what is Sage, and that is simple age.
Oh.
So it's a
here we go.
Yeah, let's take a oh hey, okay.
Ooh,
okay. I
love
like
that.
it.
Love that.
Something like this. This is a gymnasium saber, so it's like a late 19th century training weapon for a military saber.
They call it a gymnasium saber because
this type of blunt saber was designed for practice in the gym, right? It's Fendi, right? But basically, if you're looking at the source material for things like Swords of the Shadow Planet, that includes, of course, Barzoom, Edgar Rice Burroughs, and that is definitely from this sort of period.
Very cool. All right.
So there's your answer. There's your overly detailed answer.
Love it. And we do love an overly detailed answer. And real quick, just for folks who might have missed the memo, there have been a couple. What give us the quick and dirty of Sage?
Sage is a streamlined, story-focused version of the adventure game engine.
There you go.
The idea is that we've taken a lot of things that we define in Age, and we've given you a place for you to define them instead, right? So we don't have fixed abilities, right? We have suggestions for fixed abilities in Big Sage, but you can also go totally freeform and make up your own, or you can have a mix, right? There are a bunch of refined versions of Age of Mechanics you've seen before. So, for example, we have bonds, which you'll know from relationships, from Bonds and Cthulhu Awakens, from Divine Bonds and Trojan War. So we have those, but The rules for them are a little bit different because they're designed to integrate into the fortune rules in a little bit of a more structured and tight fashion, right?
I like that.
And also the story focus also means that, we have things like, we have abstracted conflict. So, you can do damage with words as well as deeds, right? In the right context, right?
Yeah.
So within this framework, we've included a whole bunch of tools to basically get a setting of your own design done, or something from fiction that inspires you, or even from another game. The idea is that this will give you the tools to do that in a streamlined implementation of Age really quickly. And also, we've given you some design toys in there so that you can do innovative things.
Well, how serendipitous for us, because we just happen to be doing so, and we haven't really picked a particular line yet. And so why not Sage, right? I mean, what do you think, Ryan? Ren, I feel like it's like fated.
Oh, for sure. I'm not, unfortunately, a great person to ask about this, just because I've not had a lot of time to, having a soon to be 5-month-old kiddo.
Right.
I don't have a lot of time to read.
Yes.
So I haven't looked super closely at Sage. I only know about the bare bones. I really like. I mean, the concept of it is fantastic, and I think it's going to be. I mean, we've already been seeing a lot of folks getting very excited for it on the Green Running Discord that I've been seeing.
Yeah.
Man,
Well, and I think
it
that
really resonates with a lot of folks who go for more of those like those what's the word, more general, quote unquote, sort of like
yeah, it's got a homebrewy vibe too.
Yeah. It is really going to be what you make of it.
Well, a big part of it is sort of like I thought of a fancy recent economics word called disintermediation. Disintermediation is what they call it when instead of having a third party do something for you, they just provide a conduit for you to do it. So one example of this in commerce is Airbnb, right? But don't think Sage is terrible because I just raised the example of Airbnb, please. But what this means in terms of the style is that, I talk a bit in first person in this. And the idea is that I want to immediately recruit the reader as, they're another game designer, and I've provided this framework for them to design games. And here I am going to tell you like what the best practices are for this. Best practices. That sounds too fancy too.
No, I like it. It's
what
great.
The best thing to do is.
Yeah. How to make good game.
Pro gamer tip,
right? And also how to make a game that you will run. Because we all know that, there's the black hole of prep and session 0, right? That tends to and it's fun, but if your primary interest is in playing, right, you do want to eventually get that game going. So, that's part of the process that we kind of encourage, right? We have, what I said, that build form, and the build form has word counts for specific parts of the setting. You can go longer. And in fact, the material we'll look at today that you've worked on will certainly go longer. Right.
Well, look at that. We swapped right over to it. I think I lost connection for a second. But before we dive into this, I want to ask, do we have any questions for Malcolm before we sort of dive into the template here? Anything that you might have been sitting on design-wise or... Oh, hi, Duke. Duke was not feeling well, and so he's here with us in spirit. Internet, it seems to be. I'm sorry. I'm kind of popping in and out for some reason. But I wanted to make sure we got any questions, sort of any of the meta questions that we might have had from the last show, and then we can dive into the structure. So I do have a question for you, Malcolm. So when you're putting pieces of this puzzle together, and the understanding and taking full sort of recognition of the difference between what we're doing and what you do. And that is to say, you've been doing this for a long time. You've kind of got you're working at a different level. The fundamentals are already, am I, did you lose me?
There's a different function, right?
Yeah.
When you're doing things for a broad audience, there's a different function to it, right? So you can cut to the chase a lot more easily when you are designing for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then when you're designing collectively, like you're doing as a community, right? That's going to be kind of somewhere in the middle, right? Because as a community, you have a basic shared idea of what you want. So, often you can skip a lot of the hard part and just get right to doing things, right? Whereas when I'm writing, what I need to do is I need to make something that is appealing for people other than me and can be understood by people other than me, right? Having a good editor is very helpful for the latter process, because sometimes like Evan Sass did a great job editing this. And sometimes what happens is that you get really used to your kind of own internal language or way of doing things.
Yeah.
And you don't notice that it slowly becomes kind of unintelligible to anyone else. Right.
Right.
So, the easiest version of that is when people like insist on putting like, obscure fandom references.
Yes. Yeah.
Stuff into things, right? Like
overly complicated naming conventions.
Overly complicated name. Well, sometimes it works. I don't know. I have a whole policy with. Actually, I'll tell you the secret to making cool fantasy names right now. What you do is you go look at an extinct or reconstructed language. And then you kind of move your way forward and either take cues from the derived language that comes out of these root languages, or you just shift it to something that you feel is easier for you as a speaker of the language that you're writing in to pronounce. So what I will typically do is I'll go and I'll look at an Indo-European lexicon, right? So, Proto-Indo-European is, of course, the sort of model language from which lots and lots of languages that come out of Western Europe and Central Asia come from, right? Yeah. So the idea is that I go back to this language nobody speaks anymore, but which has mutated into the languages we speak. And I can take a god or an idea or anything, really, and I can take that and I can make a little tweak to it, either by looking ahead to one of the languages it's influenced, right?
Yeah.
Or I can just change it to taste, right? Because like the thunder god, the Proto-Indo-European thunder god Sky Father is named like Zeus or something. Like I can't pronounce it because I'm not a linguist, right? But of course, later on we have Zeus, right? Who comes from that. Right. So we can play around in between and things sound authentic because they're coming from genuine language structures. Right.
Yeah, very interesting. So what we were using, I was going to recommend that we do, the street you grew up on, the name of your first pet. And then, but that doesn't seem to be, it didn't really do the job. So that's great advice.
I might give the wrong vibe.
You might give the wrong vibe. Yeah. What are we? We're a bunch of strippers. Let's see here. I'm looking at the ones here. Okay, so I want to make this clarification just for, or have you make this clarification rather. Mm-hmm. The Tempo asked, will there be new settings in the stage full release? Will the previous settings be expanded upon?
There will be two new settings, but they have light treatment because they are written using the template.
Yeah, nice.
Right. So the template asks you to do a maximum of, I think, 2,000, 2,500 words, right? Maximum, right? Whereas the settings in engine number 3 were about 7,000 words each, if I remember right. No, they weren't. They were 4,000, right? And 4,000 starts to get a little past, what I expect people to do
Yeah. Okay.
to make themselves a game setting, right?
Got it.
Uh,
Well, so I do have a question about and then Tempo also asked, can Blue Rose Dragon Age 5th season be adapted to Sage? Is that is that a thing that we're
well,
go ahead.
Yeah, they could be. I do have some notes about adapting Blue Rose that I did as a design experiment. Maybe I will share them someday.
Yeah, okay.
Make a good blog post.
And as for other games, like, it depends, right?
It's like maybe you wouldn't necessarily want to.
I am reluctant. I'm reluctant to make comments about games based on licensed IPs. For this.
Certainly, yeah.
Although you could do it, and in fact, there is a little bit of discussion of that in the book. But for fifth season would be tricky because of the way erogeny works in fifth season.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, we don't have rules for a magic system that is, that starts with your ability, that starts with the risk of you killing everybody in your community.
Got it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, I want to shout out Owen Casey Stevens is in the chat. Good to see you, friend.
Oh.
And he says, share the Blue Rose notes, share all of Malcolm's brilliance. Little known fact. Oh, no, actually, I think it's a very known fact, but Owen is the one that named this very program that we're on. And
yes,
some years ago, we were co-hosting it. And Owen, it was good to see you, friend. Miss you. And it's always nice when you stop by.
Yes, he's the OG Fantasy Age designer for this edition. Yeah. And also, I will just I'll hawk some stuff for him. He is a master of Pathfinder system design, and he is doing. He's starting to move on releasing some things that he's worked on. And you should check it out.
Absolutely. Owen, would we want people to check that out over at DriveThruRPG? In addition, he's also a part of a publishing group. It's not Rouge Genius, is it? It's Rogue Genius.
Rogue Genius.
Not Rouge. How could I have done that wrong? But with plenty of fantastic mutants and masterminds stuff. But yeah, Owen, give us a little hint, and I can actually look it up over at because I don't think we have you set up to be able to give links.
I know there was one thing that he is working on doing, and then there's something that he got the rights back to that I shared earlier today. Anyway.
Oh, you can post links. Oh yeah. Owen, you might have.
You should check out his stuff.
Absolutely. Right now, the Pathfinder material is at on Patreon.
Yeah.
With the link in chat. Fantastic. Lovely stuff. And then also maybe Owen, drop your link to the Rogue Genius stuff so they can check that out, because our Kickstarter's gangbusters, just blowing through all of our stretch goals, and I think we still have 20 some days left. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so let's transition to our template here, and
well, how about we talk about the setting that you folks have been working on, and kind of the context of the template, and we can kind of talk about what you've done that could fit in.
So basically, for just as a quick primer, we had originally set about to create a battle map. The idea was just a big map where there's some scuffle going on, and have some fun with it. And it quickly escalated, and now it is a full-blown setting. And the concept is that a giant, thank you, Owen, a massive dragon, a dragon of just impossible proportions, has slammed into a planet and has caused a great deal of trauma to the face of this planet. And over time, people have built. Let me get Remek in here. People have built in the giant mouth of this thing a capital city, and they've built another capital city.
Oh, the dragon has gotten a lot bigger since the last time I checked.
My friend, yes, yeah.
It seems to get bigger every time we talk.
It does. And on the back of the dragon in the icy spires is another city, and it's Fornax is the city in the maw, and up top is what do we call it?
I think right now we're calling it Etheria.
Yeah,
I think that's still a working title name.
Yeah. And to be fair, all of this is sort of, we've got some real neat ideas, but one of the decisions that we made in the last live stream was that rather than, so we have the big, like, there's this faction that believes that the dragon is dead and that the humans are humans are just subsisting off the residue of this giant dead dragon. There's another faction that believes the dragon is actually alive and trapped. And then there's another group that's just like, this is just a oddly shaped cave. Like, this is just a natural formation. And then there's another version of it, and that is that the dragon is actually in a deep slumber, in a deep sleep. It's hibernating, but it is still functioning on some basic level, attracting all of these humans to it, so that when it wakes up, it has something to eat. And so that's sort of the lay of the land. There are lots of intrigues. There are, of course, friction between the two capital cities, lots of layers of politics and all kinds of good stuff, including like a race of small kind of lizard-like humanoids that are potentially either they are an embodiment of the dragon. They're called shepherds because they do good things, and they're in both capital cities. They're just, wherever you go, there are shepherds. And what we've decided based on the last one is, rather than sort of lead you and sort of say, okay, here's the big reveal, is that we will put in the hands of the GM the choice. Let them kind of unpack it and build resources for each one of those potential.
That sounds.
It sounds what?
It sounds.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
That reminds me of, there's this. I think we'll just spend the day just promoting everybody books.
I love it.
But there's I don't know if people remember the Mechton role-playing game.
Oh yeah,
from Arkel Submarine, the giant robot game. Well, the second edition of it had a supplement called Mechton Empire, which was about a big galaxy-spanning empire and setting. And one of the neat things it had blank spots in the book where it went like, what is the secret of this part of the setting? And you just fill it in.
Yeah, interesting.
That's fun.
Which, I never really did, because, I wanted to keep my books from looking bad. And it was like the late 80s.
Right. I think that you're probably, a lot of people will feel that way about writing in their books.
But I always thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Right? And now, of course, we have like legacy mechanics and board games and things like that.
Yeah, and for us, it was, I think it was kind of a revelation in that we didn't, doing it the other way felt like we were just shoehorning, we were just keeping everyone on rails, and that the big reveal, that the most important part of the story was that there's a big reveal that the dragon is alive and your dinner, and it just felt a little gimmicky.
Yeah. And also, like, play may influence the decision that you want to make.
Yeah.
Right. So you might want to hold on.
Yeah. And we felt that it was better to save the decision making and to give the GM all the tools they need to pick the storyline and the ending, or however that works best for them. Yeah.
So that's going to be a difference between designing as a community and designing as an individual, because as an individual GM, you'll either figure it out now or you won't.
Right.
And that's easy.
Right.
Right. But with a community, you do have to take the step to go, like, your implementation is going to be different when you run this.
That's
stuff,
right. Yeah.
right. That we've done together.
Yeah, and then that was another concern. It felt to me a little bit like the magic was lost because what you keeping a big secret feels a little it's tough, right? Because then at some point people learn the secret, but if you can change and mix and match it with the storyline that works, then the GM gets to preserve surprise.
Well, that was always a thing that was challenging when working, because as some of you know, I worked for White Wolf from like 99 to 2005, right? And then I worked for their various descendants. And of course, what are they known for? Metaplot.
Yeah.
Right? What does Metaplot have? It has secrets that are eventually sort of revealed in a top-down fashion.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm a bit of a defender of Metaplot because it does provide some interesting structure and it creates a common community around these questions. However, I think nowadays the execution really needs to come through an adventure, right? Through an adventure scenario, whatever, and not through like me just telling you that, the king of the vampires ate all the other vampires and hates you or something like that, right? Because we're canceling the line, right? Because that stuff always it just looks like such an imposition based on business interests, right? I think the one that always got me was way back because look at my beard, I'm old. During the transition from first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons to second edition, they did a whole bunch of stuff with the Forgotten Realms setting. And one of the things that happened in the meta plot was that they killed every assassin, every member of the assassin class in Faerun, right? With the Forgotten Realms setting. And they did that solely because the assassin class wasn't going to be in the second edition of AD&D. That was the only reason, right? So they justified it in the setting. And then, that's happened with the Forgotten Realms a couple of times, sure. With fourth edition, where they changed the magic system, they also had to have a weird metaphysical change in the realm. So that stuff always just seems like an imposition, right?
For sure.
Whereas, if you're the pilot of the plane that's taking you to a new development in the setting, right? That's a different thing, right? That's something you're in control of, right? And it can have a number of different outcomes. So I guess that's what I would say the difference.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And so I'd like us to dive into the template,
to the
story build. But first, couple quick comments. Owen says your beard makes you look distinguished. And then with a follow-up from Duke saying, a gentleman, really
distinguishes me from someone who without a beard is largely chinless. Thank you.
I wish I could grow a beard because I don't have a chin. I'm not super chin.
So this is how much chin that's getting out of here. So
well, we like it chinned or not. Okay, so let's dive into this. And I love these kinds of tools because I think it really helps shorthand you through what could take you decades of bad design decisions to get to a template that works.
I don't know for decades, but I'll just go over it and I'll just sort of ask you where we plug things, the land of the dragon, the city of the Maw fits in. So, so we call an implementation of Sage a build, right? That's the fancy word we're using. So this is the story build section. And the first thing I ask for is a summary where you just summarize what it's about in 200 words or less, right? Yeah. So this is a big deal to do. And I think you already have because, you have a city in the jaws of a dragon. So you have that, right? And the other half of it would probably be to identify and summarize what is constantly driving stories in the setting. Because once you can concentrate those two things down, then, you have this sort of you have an elevator pitch / executive summary / basis of unity for your group,
Right.
And it's something that you can always refer to. That's easy to course correct, to make sure it's consistent with what you've told you to with the players, and so on and so forth, right? And this reminds me of something I mentioned in a meeting that we had yesterday, Troy, is that like the most famous summary of an idea that I can think of is MTV Cops. MTV Cops was something that I think it was an NBC producer wrote down on a piece of paper, and that became Miami Vice.
Right.
A very popular show in the 1980s, right? And that came from 2 words, right? You should do more than 2 words, right? But you should have a way to simply describe what you're doing. You do it so you're not limited to it, but you still do it. So moving downwards, so setting, what is the nature of the world where the story takes place? Answer in 1,000 words or less, right? And the reason I have these word constraints is that it really forces you to concentrate on what's important. Right?
Yeah.
You can do other documents, right, to add to it, or you can just ignore me because it's not like a hard and fast rule, right? I'm not going to go check your word counts or anything. But the idea is that if you limit yourself to 1,000 words, then you're going to have to think hard about what the big notes that you want to sort of belt out are, right? And the suggestions I have are for places, right? So obviously that's going to be the strong suit because you started as a map.
Yeah.
And now you have Maw, the city and the Dragon's Maw,
yeah.
right? So you have that place. For peoples, right? You have a sense of, you have the, what are they called?
The shepherds?
The helper, the shepherds,
the Malcolm
right?
Sheppards.
The shepherds. Yes. Oh, shucks.
We did that. We did that. I did that.
We'll have one little guy named Malcam or something.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. Right. So, you want to define those. And you also want to define, other folks too. And sometimes it's going to be like fantasy peoples. And sometimes it is just going to be, sometimes it's going to be social groups. Right.
I have a quick question for you on this. So in that we've got 2 capital cities that kind of play a pretty, the role is, the importance is split between the both of them. Would you have us break out the cities and kind of go through this for each city?
No, what I would do though is I go back and, when you're doing the summary, right, you would say that this is about 2 cities and the interactions between 2 cities. Right. Right. And then that would be part of the route that you build out.
Got you.
Right? And similarly, I have some advice for, factions, figures. So I don't know if you've done work on if they're important historical or current individuals.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And in some settings, that's not going to be a big deal. Right. I mean, you have what people call kind of the West Marches template.
Sure.
Right. Where it's pure exploration. Right. So anyone you meet is going to be new. But then in the example in the sheet here, right, the example I give you is, if you set a game in 15th century Rome, the Pope is going to be important.
Right.
Because that's part of the nature of the setting. So you want to talk about the Pope. Right. And you will have settings like that.
Yeah.
Again, you have to be careful that you don't create NPCs who did all the interesting stuff.
Very
already,
good point.
Right. And of course, the last one is powers. So if it is a traditional fantasy setting, you have an idea of what the powers are, right? But you should still note it, right? You should still note, if people have access to magic or they can do things people normally can't do, right? You should note it. And you should also note why, right? Because having a sort of metaphysical basis to how magic works really does make a setting with magic deeper, even if it's just a little thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, before we move forward, a question for you. Is there maybe I'm just not looking ahead and maybe I shouldn't, but how deep do we want to? Because we do have a pretty well defined. I would say, Ryan, you let me know if we need to do a little bit more work on that. But I feel like we've got the factions are one of the most well defined. The cities and their vibe, pretty well defined. I do wonder about, because we also spent a lot of time thinking about, and honestly, maybe too much time daydreaming of the flora, the fauna, all of that kind of stuff. Does that have a spot in this template, or
if it's included, if it's critical to the setting? The idea for this is not everything.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Nobody needs help writing as much of what they want as much as they want.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because they can just do that. Right. Right. So the idea here is when you have something developed like you do, the role of this would probably be to have a concentrated high-level summary that gives you an idea of what your priorities are, and also what you're going to present to people when it's time to play. Right.
That makes sense. So that's helpful. That's really helpful. Okay, awesome.
So similarly, when we get to characters, right? Who are the characters? Tell me in 100 words and include notes for the PCs. Right.
Perfect.
Right. So that's something that's going to vary, of course, from, one game or campaign to the next. But it's good to have a sense, because when you do this part, you're going to have a sense of like why the characters are together, right? Which is often like the most painful, arbitrary, and dumb part of role playing, right? Which is why we have so many stereotypes related to it. Like you all wake up in jail, or you meet a wizard in a bar, right? So, for example, one of the settings in one of the example settings in Sage is the Esoteric Academy, which is a school that caters exclusively to reincarnations of heroes from ancient times, right? Because the second set is ending up being sort of an X-Men Lord of the Rings mashup.
I see. Okay, I feel it.
So, so that creates some definition, right? Like something like the X-Men, very easy to figure out who the player characters are, right? They're mutants at Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, right? So, for more loose groups, at the very least, what you can do is you can write the lead up, like the thing that creates the critical encounter that brings them together.
Very good.
I dig it.
The Inciting Incident Festival.
And Owen brings up, sorry, just one quick second. Owen brings up, I often cheat on flora and fauna and say something like Arizona and Egypt mashed up. Yeah, I think that's it's good to hear from our veteran developers, that because we were just
that's absolutely
we were getting into the minutia of it all. We were getting down to the the cellular level. And that,
you don't have to justify all of evolution if that's not the goal of your setting. Like if it's not a science fiction setting or not an extremely weird fantasy setting, right? Like you can have chickens,
right? Sure.
It's okay, right? So often what monsters and creatures are going to be is they're going to be just a little sprinkle of something. Something special. This is something that came up in working on Swords of the Shadow Planet, actually, because Dwar, the Shadow Planet, basically rips species from Earth at regular intervals. So you have dinosaurs, but you also have chickens.
Right. Ren, I want to give you some
Sorry, I'm just obsessed with how chickens just made it everywhere, because they come from like Vietnam, right? Like that's where they're that's where the species, and the people have just transported chickens all over the place.
Well, now, did they transport the chicken or the egg?
Well, there's a question, Troy.
That prompt is a couple pages down.
Yeah, exactly. Ren, I want to give you some space to ask questions about some of the stuff you've got cooking. Let's just to make sure that we're not missing any detail.
Yeah. So next up, of course, the question of who the characters are feeds into the premise, right? And as I've been talking about over and over, what makes stories happen in this game? Now, all the other parts of it speak to this, but the idea is you spend 500 words directly addressing this, right? because certainly when people present new settings and things, the biggest question is, what do the characters do?
Sure.
Right? And it is incumbent upon you to answer that and to provide as many and as flexible options as you can, right, while sticking to the setting,
Yeah.
right? Unless you have a very specific idea in mind. It's all right to have a very narrow setting, right? But for them, horses for courses, I guess. Anyway, so our options, we have. So I have a few examples,
Yeah.
right? Part of it is, what are the characters expected to do, right? The job, the MacGuffin. Is there a thing that is impelling?
Now I want to let's pause here
characters
just for 1 second. I want to wait before we get into the MacGuffin, because we do have kind of a MacGuffin, but we're trying to wrap our minds around it. I do want to just, Ren, do you have something, any questions or thoughts on what you've seen thus far?
I've not any questions. I'm just enjoying this ride, and I'm gonna need a copy of this actually, because I've got a modern age setting in mind that I've been wanting to do for the ACA, and I think this will really help me sort of. It's very much just been like a lot of ideas in my head, and I think I know generally what I want to do, but having this, I think, will definitely focus me.
Right on. And hey, friends who are listening right now, when we get to the end of the program, which will be in 10 or so minutes, stick around, because I've got some information to share related to things like the ACA. It's kind of exciting. But all right, so now we're at the MacGuffin.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll just go back up, the job. So in the cities of the dragon, like what do player characters do for a living?
Yeah.
Why are they, another thing is there something about the dragon, or is there an artifact related to the dragon that can perhaps drive a story?
Yeah.
Right? Then we have things like the gods, which, don't have to be the gods. As I mentioned, they could be gods, rulers, AI egomaniacs, or as a treat for Marxists, the social forces of production. So, right. So what are the overarching forces?
That's great.
In the setting?
As a treat.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in terms like, do people mine things from the dragon?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So,
certainly.
What if there's a shortage of one of those things? Right? What if there's some magical change in the nature of what can be taken from the dragon? What if the dragon's body starts to do weird stuff?
Yes.
Right? So all of these things could be, a premise that kicks off things, right? And of course, society, which is going to be a big focus for, something with two cities, in and around the body of a dragon, right? So obviously you're going to want to explore, like, how do these cities relate to each other? Are they allied? Are they enemies? Is it a strained alliance? Is it a complicated relationship? Right? All of those, the tensions there, I think, can be very inspiring. And then from there, we move on to style. So 500 words about the atmospheric elements of play.
I'm excited for this session.
Yeah.
So one of the things that often people are lacking is a sense of what style is, because they're just going to go with whatever the game they have looks like, or whatever is typical for the genre, right? So, the style, oh, well, it's a fantasy game. We're going to do things in the style of post-Tolkien fantasy. People are going to wear chainmail, and they're going to have highfalutin speeches, and there's going to be good and evil. There's going to be a lot of Celtic knotwork for some reason, right? High fantasy, right? But, what I am saying is that maybe you can take more of this process into your hands. So, one of the things you can do, well, we'll go over what we can do here, right? So one of the things is motifs, which are, recurring elements that reinforce your themes and moods, right? So, so one example would be like, let's say that the primary, let's say that one of the big conflicts is that there's some material that the dragon creates that is running low or changing.
Yeah.
One thing you might have is you might constantly return to scenes about the fallout of this, right? Shops closing, industrial accidents.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's good to hear. You know what's
robberies, gang wars, all these things that come,
social,
that reinforce the idea of, that this loss of this substance, just to grab an example, is having this effect, and it's causing, it's changing the mood, and it's the atmosphere is encouraging you to go do story stuff, go do cool story stuff to interact with this, right? Similarly, we have themes, right? So it's a good idea to have a theme in your game because that's the thing that elevates it and makes people feel in character that they are doing something other than indulging a power fantasy.
Right.
I'm not saying that power fantasies are all bad, but you cannot sustain play on being a cool guy.
Right.
Very true.
Right? Like it runs out, you will eventually run out of interest, right? And that is something I find a lot, especially with gamers, older gamers who are my age. I find that we tend to start to retreat into power fantasy gaming, right? After gaming perhaps in a more ambitious fashion when we're younger, right? And I think it's a good way to prevent people like me from kind of slacking, and kind of bringing the noise to their own design and work. So, and we can have just some simple mission statements here, right? So I would think about like, what are the themes of hanging out with the dragon? I certainly see an idea that there's kind of the vibe that I get is that, the issue all revolves around the ecology and history related to this event that happened, right? So I see like maybe, I keep talking about the resources thing, but I see an ecological theme or a social theme that, speaks to things like, the need to cooperate in the face of challenges that are bigger than our individual interests.
Bigger than that our world is really could be going one way or the other, decaying, or whatever.
And certainly that feels relevant to our times, doesn't it?
It does indeed. One of the things that's exciting about this is that as you're talking, I see that we're ticking some boxes. Really, what was missing for us was kind of the lattice work, or just sort of this supports to kind of pour all the details in. I do have a question about when it comes to snapping in. So for instance, one of the things that we've talked about is, so we've got the shepherds, and they are somehow an extension of and under the control of, at times, the dragon, allegedly. But I'm thinking of like there's also the notion of people who have traveled or people who have gone deep into the dragon because it's so big. They're going in, and they're mining or they're looking for resources and stuff, and that they get kind of
gut
dungeon. That's exactly right. That's so good. Gut dungeon. But there's an exposure issue, and they get a little weird. What I thought about for both the shepherds and that there'll be a mechanism not unlike the churn, that the longer you play, the shepherds kind of can do a thing or react in a way, or they're a collective. They don't ever really speak.
Yeah, that's interesting. I see that. Yeah, that reminds me of legacy board game mechanics. Do people know what I'm talking about when I talk about legacy?
But why don't you elaborate, just in case we don't?
Okay. So you have games, Risk Legacy is the one that I think of the most, and a number of other games where the idea is that it comes with a pack of sealed cards, or, depends on the game, because other games. And the idea is that you open this up, and when you act on it, it permanently changes the board because it changes because the world has changed.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So one thing I can see, right, that might be just to make things way more complicated
Sure, and
for you.
more perilous
It
for the yeah.
is to have, is to have these sort of options that drop if you interact with the shepherds in a certain way.
Yeah.
Like if you start, killing shepherds like it's going out of style, like maybe once a certain number of shepherds have been
You
murdered,
run.
well, you activate this
Yeah.
car, and all of a sudden the shepherds undergo some kind of transformation and aren't so nice
I
anymore.
love that. I love that. Ren, what do you think?
Right?
I was coming into this thinking that we need some sort of like killer app, quote unquote, for this setting, kind of like how the Expanse has the churn.
Yeah.
And then Fantasy Age got like oh goodness, it was Peril and Daring. That was it.
Peril and Daring.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, we definitely need something for this setting, and I think that's definitely on the right lane.
I do. Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I hadn't really even thought of like just sort of this big, a point of no return. That's very interesting to me. And then also just in the larger sense of what's going on with this dragon, there is, I could just see, with the exposure thing as well. When you're in the gut dungeon and you're, maybe too close to the dragon's heart, or it's exuding some kind of something, and then the longer you there, the more that it ticks up, and like we can just lift that right from the churn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or if you want to, go back into sort of the ecological theme, maybe whatever you get from the heart of the dragon also affects other people. Right. So, you pick up you might pick up various mystical conditions that are to a certain extent transferable.
Ooh, yeah.
To other
Okay.
people, right. That, could be beneficial or could be like a disease.
Very interesting, because
right?
we do talk,
because again, it speaks to the theme of being part of a common
affliction.
ecology,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah. Well, and I like that, because we do talk about one of the things that kind of clicked for me just in this conversation. We had already sort of talked about the effect of being in close proximity to a dragon and potentially enthralled by it in a way that you don't really get. That there could be some mechanism or manner of expressing that, and maybe it is through, maybe you get, I don't know, you get a tail, or
I think we could crack open Cthulhu Awakens and look at the alienation rules for that, and maybe play around with those a bit.
I mean, one option could be you go to a certain part of the dragon and then you come back and the dragon is hungry, but it's given someone who's visited the Pied Piper like powers.
Oh, to call. Yes.
Damn.
Wicked. I really like that a lot. I really do. Yeah. And so, this is interesting. And I appreciate just walking through this, because it is for me taking a lot of the decision making and the not decision making rather, but how should we be laying this information out? And it's freed up some brain space to think about how we can incorporate some fun age mechanics into the various.
Yeah. So what you can do is just use this thing as a source and as a template to kind of build a concentrated version of a more sprawling setting, and also to fill in the soft blanks that have to do with theme and mood and tropes. Right. And another thing, one last thing I want to take from this is also, if you are, looking at inspirations from other media, it's a good idea to think about what they are and define them, because that does two things. It means that you can continue to use that inspiration, and also it means that you can be conscious of when you're using it, because sometimes you will end up copying the plot of something.
Oh my gosh, you're so right.
More than you would like to do.
Yes, subconsciously, just sort of like, what a great idea, and you've been biased to that because you've been exposed to the story, and it just feels like the right way to do it. Yeah.
And sometimes just listing your inspirations just helps you control that, right?
And make it so that it's more of a purposeful intent.
And that's what a lot of this is it's it is getting down that information with intent, with intention. Oh my goodness, what's happening? Anyway, and then the last thing is write 300 words about what starts things off,
and that's the premiere,
right? and that's the premiere.
I
You
like
tie
that.
it back to the
I do
summary.
too. Yeah, that's
So
great.
the idea is that, you have gone through, you know who the characters are, you know what the setting is, you know what the premise is, you know what makes stories
Yeah.
happen. You know what the vibe is, and now, like, how are you going to cash that check?
Really awesome. Listen to this. When
bad.
we were doing this, we are a wealth of ideas and just a font of creativity. But I'll tell you, this has
Mhm.
really crystallized. You know, when I said to Malcolm, I said, "Hey, would you mind coming back and doing a little design review?" And he just kind of cracked his knuckles. Was like, "Yeah, you bet." Like, it was just sort of like, I knew that we would get to a place that would be useful for us and for the folks that are listening and watching, because they are, in this process, we're calling them the arbiters. And so they're helping us make some decisions about,
Yeah.
design and development. And, we're having a lot of fun doing it, but we are all over the place. This is going to really change the game for us, I think.
Yeah. One idea that I just had off the
Yeah.
top is that, as we're talking about how, the dragon affects everything and is this sort of, is this world ecology, and is you know, actively influencing people's lives. Well, presumably, these cities are probably going to want to try to figure things out about the
That's
dragon,
right.
right? So they might have an agency that does that,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we've got
Right.
bits and pieces of that. One of the things that one of the
Yeah.
tropes is it's kind of a, I guess for lack of a better quote, Oceania has always been at war with, East Asia kind of notion. And
Yeah.
that's that the two cities are fighting each other in a manufactured kind of friction that keeps people
Yeah.
from looking at the edges,
Mhm. So what I would
Yeah.
suggest in how you would implement this, because you have an existing setting, I would kind of create a split in your head about the setting as this big sprawling thing you want to add detail to, which is cool and you should keep doing it, and the setting as a thing that makes a game happen.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Sure.
So, you don't have to speak to the whole setting. You just have to speak to the part that you'll put together to run a game with. That includes the characters, right? Because a big part of this is making sure that the characters feel integral to the setting instead of folks that just kind of showed up, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I would do is I would use something like this to create focus for play, right? And play prep. But don't restrict and that's where I say, restrict yourself to a certain number of words. But when you want to do, detail, like, just get your inner Tolkien out, like, make up those languages.
Right. Sing those songs. Sure. 5 pages of 5 chapters of Elven song. So a quick question for you, Malcolm. This already people are like, oh, hey, where can I get this? I would like to get my hands on this. How do you want to disseminate that piece of, you want to wait a minute until you have a chance to kind of confab about what the forms might be, or is this as a rough something you want to present to?
That's this piece. This is a big chunk of text. I mean, there's no harm in sharing it around however you'd like.
We'll do it in the
as long as it's clear that it belongs to us.
Yeah, I think how about this? Why don't we we'll talk more about it offline. We'll do some branding and kind of throw it into a PDF. But I think that that's great and very generous of you, because I know that this is it's part of an ongoing developing project. And and as infrastructure, it's just exactly what we needed, friend. I mean, this is
lest you think this is like, some clever synchronized marketing. I literally like just said, hey, Troy, I've got this bit of text. Do you want to use it?
I was like, yeah, that's exactly.
And I did that like an hour and 20 minutes ago. So.
That's so awesome. I mean, because
that's the kind of Machiavellian scheming we at Green Ronino know.
Oh, yes. Well, we are we're synergizing and
synergizing.
Yeah. Well, really, we are, and it is a happy accident you happen to be in this kind of having this resource at the tip of your fingers and just at top of mind. And I think that this really helps me a lot. Before we close up, and I know we are 8 minutes after. We did start 3 minutes late, which is actually 10 minutes early. But Malcolm, or I mean, Ren, do you have anything you want to add, or questions or thoughts based on kind of now you've seen this? You feel like the answer that to our prayers?
Oh yeah. My first question was definitely, where can I get this?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, fantastic. Anything else? And any thought from Chad? I'm looking at Chad and I see that a lot of great thoughts and advice. Owen, of course, challenging that being a cool guy is, that's where he lives. So he can power game through that with ease. Let's see. Yeah, the dragon is cosmic horror. I agree with you, Duke, for sure. Jeremiah, our good buddy, says as long as the players have enough to picture where their characters are going to or coming from. Yeah. I think we were really trying to fill out a lot of stuff.
Oh man, cool. Just ignore the typos. I just saw one.
We'll review it before we make it public.
Oh.
Yeah. We'll post it on the tank. Hey, friends, listen. I'm going to make this real quick. First, Malcolm, thank you so much. You've done great work here. You've shared with us some development and design magic that will really get us moving and in the right direction without having to detail every stone.
And when Big Sage comes out, everyone will have access to it.
Excellent.
If they get Big Sage.
Hey, we're doing office hours tonight. In just 1 hour, you're going to head over to the tank and you're going to look for it. You'll see the event. It's Get Tanked with Troy. It's my office hours. We have just a rogues gallery of lovely people. You are more than welcome to come. It's a Zoom meeting. You don't even have to put on your camera. You can lurk in the back, or it's just a lot of fun. Today, I imagine we will be doing some discussions about things like the Kickstarter and some other things. But if there's anybody who wanted to join, they'd be welcome to come. Maybe one Malcolm Sheppard might pop in. We'll see.
I may indeed drop by.
Absolutely, fantastic. And the other thing is, and I'll plant the seed. Our third-party user-generated content programs are evolving, and we've been working on it for some time. The pieces of the puzzle are coming together, and we'll have something more solid to share. But it is it impacts all of the things that we're doing now, but not in a negative way, in a good way. So have no fear. But, maybe even get a little excited. And we'll talk more about that in future Thursdays. Again, I want to thank Malcolm for hanging out with us. Of course, Ren for hanging out, and Duke for hanging out in the chat. I know that he's got some food poisoning, but he's hanging tough.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it does suck.
Never fun.
Yeah, never fun. But this was fun. This was a great episode. And I'm coming away with a lot of really good things. I think that there's hope for us now. We're not just going to be a never-ending story. Awesome. Hey, thanks everybody in chat for your feedback and comments. And if you want to join us for our office hours for Getting Tanked with Troy, go to atomicthinktank.com. Look at the menu on the left. You'll see a little event that says live. Click in there and you will get a link and you'll join us as if by magic. And I think that's it. Anything else for the good of the order, friends?
Sounds good to me.
All righty. Well, then we are good to go. Let me turn this up a little bit. Is it playing now? There we go. Just about the adventure official program of the Green Ronin coming to you every Thursday. Don't forget to come back on Monday because we do Mutants Masterminds on Monday. It's a ton of fun, and you deserve a little more fun in your life. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.